Hanna, welcome back to Fast Keto. Thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you so much for having me, beautiful Miss Ketogenic Girl.
Aw, you're so beautiful. Thank you for that sweet compliment. I love that you're coming to us from your closet today.
Yes,
Coming
it's
out of
true.
the closet, possibly on this podcast, coming out
Well,
of
I just crawled in, so I don't know when I'll be crawling
yeah.
out.
You could be coming out of multiple closets. Carnivore closet, maybe.
It's possible.
It's possible. No
Possible.
one knows what could be happening.
No one knows. I could be eating my pillows. I have my wine stash in the same room. Could be drinking heavily. I could find a pair of cute boots that I haven't seen for years. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
I love shopping in my own closet. I was actually thinking about that. So maybe you could do like a fashion show for us and like
Maybe I should. Maybe I should just leave that for another episode, though.
I'm gonna hold you to that, because you pull off some pretty cute looks. So
Crap. But thanks.
you do. So we're definitely doing that at some point in the future. It's gonna be Hannah's fashion show from her closet. But whether you're coming out of the closet or not, we're going to talk a lot about all of these different topics today: keto and carnivore and diabetes and managing diabetes type 1 with low carb and so many fun things. But first we have to talk about Mallorca because I'm wearing like a tropical outfit today because I'm already like pre-living our time in America. I was telling you last night, I was up and I couldn't sleep. So I was like, I'm just going to go back and like look at all the photos. And then I posted some of my favorite photos and meals because we always talk about how it's so hard to share how amazing it is when you're actually there. Like you post pictures of like the view and this and that, but I was like, no, I got to show people the goods. Like this is what the buffet looks like.
Yeah, actually, I have repressed it a little bit, I think, or forgotten because it was so long ago since last. But like your pictures really, as you fantastic real food goodness, in terms of real food and local food and organic food and all this stuff. So I cannot wait.
Well, that's like why we're all coming anyway, right? I mean, the keto info is great.
Yeah,
We're all just
blah,
coming.
blah, blah. You can't even get that online for free. It's fine.
We're all just coming to eat and hang out with other cool people, right? Like that's the whole goal. The fact that it's in a beautiful paradise is just like icing on the keto cake. But I do think it's challenging with a medium, even a medium as visual as Instagram, to share like how cool it is. And I have to say, I always emphasize the food aspect of it because it's the only event I've ever been to where from start to finish, you just get there and you arrive and you have low carb food catered to you the entire time. And it's a buffet. And, I've never been on any other kind of like cruises and things, but to me, this is the closest thing to it. But you guys curate it so beautifully. And, for keto and low carb people, one of the biggest questions that come up all the time is, how do you travel with this? What are you going to do when you're traveling? And it's like the one time you just go and you don't even think about it the entire time because you wake up in the morning, you have coffee with heavy whipped cream, like waiting for you there. There's like a bar with all the coffees, all the teas. The whipped cream's already ready. You go to lunch and there's a buffet spread of like all the antipasto and the cheeses and the meats and just like amazing low carb meals. And then you have a great salad buffet and all this stuff. And it's the same thing for dinner. And it's a huge, huge factor. And I think especially because that's what we're talking about. Like we're talking about low carb and keto food. And yet, people always talk about how they go to these kinds of events and you're talking about low carb and then people are eating something totally different.
Yep.
So I think it's just such a cool aspect of integrity at your events, but also, just trying to showcase all those things like that. And then the spa and like the plunge pools and the massages, you can go and do all this stuff. It really is a spa retreat. And I've been a few times now and every time it always exceeds my expectations. So
Oh,
yeah,
thank you so much for your amazing words and testimony of what we're actually doing, because that's exactly what we're going for. So we're going for like a retreat, keto retreat, really.
yes,
where we collect all these amazing experts that have so much intense knowledge. You know, you don't have to worry about the food, because yes, that is a topic. Every time you travel, you have to take that extra step in thinking and planning and all of that stuff. Here you can just let it go, like a beautiful Disney song said. And yeah, just really enjoy yourself and really immerse yourself in the way that you sometimes have to with keto, especially maybe in the beginning, or if you need like a new start or a new kick in somewhere a little bit painful to get going again. But you know, you can just use it as a kickstart to a healthier way of life, whether that's with the food choices that you make, or whether that's with moving your body, or your life, or you know, treating yourself to maybe a little spa package, just a retreat for, you know, taking good care of you.
I love that you say that about a reset, because I know that one of the things that I'm looking forward to on this trip is resetting some of my daily activity and movement. And I know that Daryl's going to be there, one of my buddies,
Yep.
Daryl, the fitness explorer. And, you know, he does these movement workshops and exercise workshops. And last year, I remember watching you guys do a lot of them.
It was painful.
Because I was like, y'all fun. Like, I'm studying and I'm going to use that as my excuse. And I watched you guys work out. And this year I was like, I'm going to do at least one or two of them. So for me, it's a good like movement reset. You and I did the yoga, and
Yes.
I love doing that. So that's definitely the movement. And then I also want to do a hike up to the point, because I didn't get to do that last year. And like, I always walk along the boardwalk and stuff, but I just think it's going to be a fun reset. And that's such a great point that you bring up, because sometimes life gets in the way of like other goals and things. And I love too that you brought up, you know, for a lot of people who are doing keto and low carb, maybe thinking about being able to have all those options while you're away is great. But then also, like, if it's something that you need to stay on because of your a particular health condition or something too, like, it just takes all the ease. I put so much ease into it for that whole week that you can just focus on the speakers and connecting with other people, and you're not spending time like looking up restaurants or like trying to see if there's gluten in this or sugar in that. Like, you just don't even think about that. You focus on connecting with everyone. And that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to too, is just I always like to go kind of like by myself, I guess. Like, Pete is coming this time for the weekend, but I just go kind of solo, and I love doing that too at KetoCon the first time I went. And you just end up not sticking to your partner, your best bud.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
you and I always spend lots of time hanging out, but you also, like, it forces you to meet new people and connect with new people, and people that it forces you out of your comfort zone. Like, I remember sitting down, and every meal I would try to sit down with like a bunch of people I didn't know. And then at the end, you know, you get up and you know everyone, and you've made all these new friends. And at the end of the week, you end up making more friends than, you know, you do like usually in a year, because you're just caught up with
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's also like a huge benefit, because we are renting the whole hotel. So everyone who is in that hotel is part of the event, so that, or the retreat. So you can't really, you know, go wrong and like, so how long have you been keto? And they're like, keto, what? No, but so you really like, and that's why we all stay at the same hotel and we all eat together and everything, just so we can have that sort of connection time that you maybe don't have at other events, because then you all go away to your hotels or your Airbnbs or whatever, and you don't really have that time to spend. But here, everything is taken care of. You just have to arrive, and everything is taken care of, from, you know, food to accommodation to everything. So you can just enjoy, connect, and learn, and move, and enjoy, and have fun.
I can't wait. I really can't wait. It's only a few weeks from now. So if people want to find out more, more about it, where can they go to check it out?
You can absolutely go to our website, which is, well, the short version is bit.ly/LCU19. That's the easiest.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes, and people can get 10% off if they use the code LCU19, right?
Absolutely. So come join us for an unforgettable event, because you get to hang out with Vanessa for almost a week. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, that is the greatest in hanging out with. So many cool people there. I mean, you guys have put together, you always have put together such a phenomenal, panel of experts, and it's such a great combination always of physicians and doctors, clinicians, scientists, and then people who also have personal stories and who, found low carb or keto on their own for different reasons. And I am really looking forward to all the content and watching some speakers there. So, and you're going to be speaking there this year.
I am. That's always so awkward, like putting myself on the speaker schedule when it's me organizing the event. But yes, it's I didn't speak last year, so I'm taking the chance to speak this year.
So tell us, Hanna, how did you become the diabetes expert?
That is a good question, because I just got that question in a much differently phrased way. I got a bit of hate mail the other day, but yes.
Who the F are you to consider yourself
to call yourself a diabetes expert? Yeah. I was a little thrown first, but it's not the first and definitely not the last time that someone reacts to my brand and my username like that. And that's fine. I mean, I guess I did choose it because it's kind of attention seeking in that way, I guess, and a bit obnoxious, I guess, to the wrong people. But yeah, I became diabetes expert sort of by experience and by force, really, because this year I've lived with type 1 diabetes for 34 years, and I've made absolutely every single crappy decision, wrong choice, and horrible judgments as you can make as a diabetic in my past. And while this was terrible, and I'm sad in one way that I had to go through that, it also did enrich me in the fact that I now know so much more than I would have otherwise about diabetes and what to do in certain situations and how a proper diabetic lifestyle looks like, which is not maybe dictated by healthcare professionals, but rather the ones that take care of it the other 365 days a year. Because how often do you see your doctor? About 2, 3, 4 times a year, 7 minutes a time. That's not a lot of time that you actually spend with your doctor. So the one who has to actually figure out what works for you is you. No one else can do it. You can consult your doctor, you can consult your nurses, you can consult CDs, whatever else, but you're the one who has to figure it out in the end anyway. And that's what I did for me, and that's why I try to help other people do the same for themselves.
And how did you first find low carb in the beginning? Like, how did you find this whole crazy low carb keto world?
Well, the keto world was sort of a stumble, but it actually started with I was studying a nutrition course to become a nutrition coach or health coach, and we went through how carbs work in the body and insulin and everything, and the physiological side of it, which I had no idea about at the time. I had been living with type 1 for 26 or 28 years or something at that point, and I still had no idea how it worked in the body. But my teacher there told me how it worked. And he also said that, you know what, Hanna, you don't even make insulin. So if I were you, I would think twice what I put in my body in regards to carbs. And I'm like, wow, is this it? Like, is this, yeah, really, like, mind blown. And I was just in such disbelief, and I was so angry and so hurt that for 26 years, medical professionals had essentially all lied to me throughout, at that point, 4 countries, I think, that I had been treated in Europe. they had all been saying the same thing. You need carbs. You need to eat 60% carbs with every meal. You need to eat 60 grams carbs, blah, 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 blah. Always 60 for some reason, whether it's percent or grams, it doesn't matter. It's like the same, right? But yes, very, very much carb pushing. And it was detrimental to my health. And that was when I got the sort of wake up call that, oh, there is another way. So I started with a very liberal paleo approach. All the fruits were there, even honey was there, because you can't live without carbs, right? And then a couple of years on, I'm like, okay, well, how low can I go, essentially? Because I noticed straight away that my blood sugars got better, right? And then my A1C started creeping down as well, because that was a absolute mess before. I think about 10 years ago now, I was in the double digits. So that's absolutely terrible for anyone, not least for a diabetic. And then I started to come down into sort of 8%, 7%, something. And then I was stuck there for a while. And then I gave myself a little ultimatum. I'm like, so how low can you go? And that's when I started realizing that, wow, the amount of carbs is really, really correlated to how much blood sugar fluctuation you have. So the more carbs you remove, the more stable blood sugars you're going to have. Duh. But it was new to me then. And that was about 6 years ago now, I think.
No,
I've
but
been keto.
You say duh, and yet most people would probably find that really interesting and really surprising.
It was for me too, absolutely. But it's just now in hindsight, I'm like, well, of course.
Yeah, because you're not just like a know-it-all now. No, I'm kidding. No, you know
I
it
am
all.
the expert.
You're in Hanna the Diabetes Expert. So
Right. No, it doesn't mean that I know everything about everything diabetes. It's just that I have a certain amount of knowledge, yes, but I also I'm open-minded enough to see that other things could help apart from what healthcare is telling you. And also I have so many resources that I know of that where I can turn when I find something that I don't know. And I can figure out a lot of things, not everything, of course not, but I'm not supposed to, so it's good.
So what's your first tip when someone comes to you and says, Hanna, I need like a good book, or like, where do I start?
Well, that is two things. For a type 1 diabetic, it is definitely Dr. Richard Bernstein's Diabetes Solution, the book, the Diabetic Bible, as I like to call it. It is heavy and it is very technical and it's very, sorry, Bernstein, but dry at times. But it's a wealth of information. It is so amazing to see all of that stuff like in one and the same place. You can also watch his YouTube channel, Diabetes University, and yeah, a couple of other things. But then to really get going is actually to do like a free challenge somewhere. Like, for example, I know Diet Doctor has a 2-week free keto challenge so that you can just get used to it and get the inspiration and sort of see what kind of things you should be eating, what you should be focusing on. And then you can start tweaking after that. But as a first step, definitely read up on the theory of diabetes and low carb. Definitely don't just, head first dive into that thing, because it's not going to go that well and you will lose motivation. You need to understand what is actually happening in your body and what's going on first. And then get used to the types of foods, because it will be new, especially if you're coming from like a standard Western diet.
Right. Those are really great tips. Really good book to start off with, and then trying it out just with some kind of challenge that involves some kind of community support, or has some kind of communal aspect to it.
Or, the ketogenic girl 28-day challenge.
Yes. That is, I've heard good things about that program and the person who created it. Yeah,
she's really pretty and smart.
Oh, you're just full of flattery today. You're full of beans. It must be because you had this stellar A1C recently. Can you tell us?
It must be. Like, that must have really just turned on some sort of I'm never mind. Yes, great A1C. No, but having an A1C in sort of the healthy, healing, happy, normal ranges as a type 1 diabetic, especially after this long, is really not common. My latest A1C result was 4.7%, which is, I still have troubles believing it.
Yeah.
For myself, especially if I think back like 10 years when I was in the double-digit hellhole of A1Cs, and now knowing that I am doing the right things for my body, that my body is responding well to, and that I am maintaining my blood sugars in a healing, happy, normal, healthy range, which should be impossible according to common medical knowledge.
It's really, really inspiring. And you're basically defying, all these norms and accepted, notions about diabetes and living with it and all that. So really cool to see like your excitement around it, and also just knowing how inspiring that's going to be for other people who are maybe where you are at when you were first starting out, to know that, this could be something that they could achieve too, and just knowing it's possible.
Yeah, and that's my whole point of sharing my life with diabetes online, even though I, as mentioned, do get a bit of hate mail every once in a while, but I think everyone does online anyway, so that's not specific to me. Anyway, but that's the whole reason why I do it, just to show people that it is possible, that to inspire people to see that, oh, if she could do it, so can I. And that's why I keep repeating that phrase, if I can do it, so can you. Like, if I can do it, so can you.
Yes. Now, what do you think has made the biggest impact for you, say in the past year, for you to kind of achieve that? And have there been any things that you could sort of point to say, well, I made these certain tweaks or shifts or changes that enabled me to like actually get this result that I've been wanting for a while?
Well, definitely we were talking about the carnivore closet. And yes, I have been eating more, focusing more on protein and more on carnivore meals. I'm not fully carnivore. I still like vegetables and I still, enjoy eating them and everything. But every once in a while, I just have like what I call a reset meal.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if I've had wonky blood sugars for a day or something like that, because that still happens. Like, just because an A1C is that healthy, it doesn't mean that every day is like smooth sailing and I never have to worry again and all of that stuff. You still have really crappy days on and off. It's just that they are a lot fewer than what they used to be. But yes, so a bit of a half a foot out of the carnivore closet. And then I've actually added more body weight exercises. And I think that has made a huge difference.
Awesome.
And I found like a rat study, but a study that actually mentioned that sort of body weight or strength exercises or strength training can help with A1C irregardless of blood sugar, actually, somehow. Yeah, it was a lot of more complex than that, but that was the essentials of that rat study. It's only in rats, but I'm like, well, actually, could that have been the reason why it actually helped to add that? And then I think a third one would actually be, yeah, I've changed around in my supplement game a little bit, so maybe it's that. And focusing more on sleep. Yeah.
And do you think mindset too? Like, I noticed you've been focusing a lot about that. You were speaking about it, KetoCon.
Yeah, definitely. Mindset is a key. I don't think I've changed that much in my own mindset in the past year or in ahead of this sort of A1C result, but just since I started low carbing and starting to realize that there is this other way of looking at things, and I've done so much inner work that it's almost exhausting when I think back on it. But I think that has definitely helped, because you don't end up seeing every so-called bad result as a catastrophe. It's more like, okay, you're more accepting. It's like, okay, this wasn't it wasn't brilliant, but it doesn't mean that everything sucks, or it doesn't mean that the whole day is gone, or it doesn't mean that you're going to die tomorrow. It's just like, it's just a number. It's okay. You can accept it a little bit easier, because that you're also going to have a lot more better days than you would have otherwise if you were still eating like you're told to.
Well, speaking of that, how would you say your keto plate or low carb plate has changed from when you first started and what it looks like now?
That's actually really interesting. I was talking to someone about that the other day, and we agreed that actually a lot of fat has disappeared from the plate from since we started. And
which is
I think
very interesting, I have to say, especially with blood sugar control and insulin and all that. Yeah. So I'm really interested to hear your take on it.
No, it's just, I started, along with my mindset change or when I started working on that and everything, I also started listening more to my body and what it wants and what it tells me, because it, if you dare to listen, it will tell you everything, both good and bad. But anyway, and so I started off with, yes, you have to have 75 to 80% fat on your plate, and no more than 15, 20 grams of protein, and then, a couple of carbs, maybe. And I'm like, yes, okay, yes, master, this is my, this is my path. And then I started reading sort of Bernstein, and I went back to Bernstein again, who is very much low carb, high protein rather. And I'm like, actually, this just makes a lot more sense. And then I started feeling that I didn't even want all that fat. Like, I didn't want it because I didn't feel satisfied on it as a nutrient. It was more like, I'm like, okay, I need meat. I need to build my muscles. No, I need amino acids to repair my body from all the, you do need fat too, but the main building blocks of the body are amino acids. So why not sort of give the body what it can work with and really repair? And especially because blood sugars can still be wonky and have an impact on your body, which it does all the time anyway. But why then not give the body stuff that it can repair this damage, smaller damage than otherwise, but damage with? And so that's something that clicked for me as well. And that's why I started focusing more on protein, because it's just more satisfying. I can really feel that I'm giving my body more of what it wants and what it needs, rather than shoving bulletproof coffees down my throat.
Yes, I think it's so fascinating, especially for you in particular, because a lot of people are wary of overeating protein in order to stay in the optimal ketogenic range, where you're producing, somewhere between 0.5 to 3.0 millimolar ketones. And yet there is another layer to that. I think when you also have an autoimmune condition that is connected to your pancreas, where, the level of protein and insulin and glucagon and all of that, there's a little bit more complexity to it. Yeah. So it is interesting to hear your perspective on that, because fat is always sort of used in this space as a filler, because, okay, it secretes the least insulin compared to carbs or protein or carbs and fat together. And it still secretes some, as you know, but less than the other macronutrients. And then, it has a satiating effect, and then it sort of keeps you from overdoing protein, which is why, it's sort of stated as that emphasis on healthy fats, and then, sort of managing the protein amount. But what I find really interesting about protein, there's a couple things. One of them is that it's really hard to overeat protein.
Yes.
Like, when you are done with a steak,
done.
This is why those Texas Roadhouses never have to give out free steak for, the person who finishes that like 30-ounce steak. Like, they know that, once you've gotten your fill, your body tells you very clearly, like,
Yeah.
it does not want anymore.
Yeah.
And so you get this really like interesting feedback from it that's very immediate and it's very real, compared to like being able to, for myself, like finish a whole pint of ice cream and I never get that feeling of like, no, we're done. It's more like, you need to stop.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the body with protein physically being like, we are done. Like, it's a subtle distinction, and yet it makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. And then also when it comes to protein and its effect on blood sugar, when you have to play the part of your own pancreas, which is, always interesting, uh, it rises, the blood sugar rises a lot slower and a lot more controlled. You don't get like a spike, which you can get still if you eat keto and a lot of fat, when the fat sort of has everything else, or has sort of gotten away from the digestive system a little bit, and so that everything else can start digesting, then you can get a real spike, even if you eat keto, because then you haven't actually covered what you needed to cover with insulin, because it hasn't digested yet. And then you might get a low blood sugar in between dosing insulin and the digestion of the protein and the few carbs that you're eating. That's a huge amount of time. Yes. So actually focusing on protein, and absolutely, I'm not saying don't eat any fat. I'm just saying it comes with the protein. So
well, that's what I was going to say, is like most of the time when you eat meat, it comes with fat.
Yeah. That, and, have an avocado to it. It's fine. Like, it's not going to kick you out of anything. And actually going back to the ketosis part, it's interesting because I don't test very often. I have to test everything else anyway, apart from ketones. So I just like test for fun when, I feel like it, I'm bored or trying to procrastinate. Anyway, I'm like, I'm doing something scientific. Let me do this first. Anyway, but I have noticed that I am deeper in ketosis now with eating more protein rather than eating more when I was eating more fat, which is really interesting because that really brings back the fact that it has everything to do with the amount of carbs you're eating and not the other two. Like, it doesn't really, like, it doesn't steer how deep in ketosis you are. It really is steered by how many carbs you're eating.
Yeah, I think that is really, you hit the nail on the head there. It really comes down to carbs. And, I was presenting here in Prague last night, and I'm throwing up the slide with macros, and I'm like, honestly, you just get this one category right.
Yes, and it's not harder.
Fine. It's really just the carbs. And yet I think, there's almost one of the cool things about, people going more carnivore, keto carnivore, is that you almost overcompensate to the point where you just end up doing a keto diet in a way that is before, when someone is, say, trying to get like 20 grams or 40 grams or total or net or this and that, studies have shown that there is sort of this number, like around 20 grams, where people either in or out. And, we can see that. And then that if you go more towards just focusing on, eating the protein and fat, that you're kind of going to land in ketosis land, by default. And you're just more likely to get your nutrient needs met. You're more likely to get your essential nutrient needs met. And so you're almost just like making it easier to hit that kind of golden like zone.
That's very true. And also, just speaking of hate mail and clarifications and stuff, I have to pull this one out of the hat again. But nutritional ketosis is, of course, not at all the same thing as diabetic ketoacidosis, because they are two different things. Nutritional ketosis is a normal human evolutionary state, in which we're just burning body fat rather than sugar, which is fine. Diabetic ketoacidosis, on the other hand, is life-threateningly dangerous and definitely needs medical attention, ER, fluids, everything it needs, and is usually due to the potentially relative lack of insulin and nothing much else. So you can't actually go into DKA from nutritional ketosis just because you're in ketosis. You still need that lack of insulin. You still need that, triggering factor, whether that's illness, whether that is insulin resistance because of something else. hormones, whatever, you still need that lack of insulin in your body.
Yeah, and that's why I like to use the word ketogenesis, because to me it's kind of more positive. It's a genesis of new ketones, and it kind of sounds a little bit less, ketosis, ketoacidosis sound very similar. Ketogenesis has its own kind of thing, but yeah, I think that's such an important point that you bring up. And it's surprising to me that you still get messages like that and people confusing it. And, you see posts about it. And yet I remember, 5 years ago or something, I was concerned, like, what is this? Now I understand it's this hyperacidic condition in the body, but at the time it's like scary, and it probably deters a lot of people from even like looking into it, because they're like, that just sounds like way too scary.
Absolutely. And that's also another actually argument for especially type 1 diabetics to be on a higher protein thing, because classically you're not supposed to get that deeply into ketosis then. And so it still requires insulin to cover the protein, of course. So you still need to take the insulin. You still need to keep an eye on your blood sugars, of course, at all times, but especially so that you know when to dose that second dose, when sort of the protein has passed through your absorption. And yeah, so it's a good point to focus on protein even more because of that.
That is so interesting, because you brought up the aspect of tissue repair and cellular repair, which protein will support, but also the fact that most people are terrified of overeating protein for those aspects that you mentioned. And yet I didn't realize that for a type 1 that you don't want to actually get that deep into ketosis. Yeah.
Well, you just need to give your body the insulin that it needs. And for that to happen, or for you to have a check on that, you need to keep an eagle eye on your blood sugars. And this is where a CGMS, like a continuous glucose monitoring system, really, really helps, because then you can see, okay, they're not 100% accurate, but you can at least see the trend, and you can see where you're heading. You can see whether it's super high or okay, so that you can see if you're getting the right amount of insulin. And when it comes to ketogenesis, let's start using that instead. You also have to make sure you stay hydrated, because otherwise, in order for your insulin to work properly and for your blood sugars to stay normal, you have to be hydrated. And ketogenesis can sometimes be a little bit dehydrating as well. And yeah, just give your body the insulin that it needs. It's not being on keto, and even for me, ketosis or ketogenesis isn't even a goal. It's just a byproduct of what happens when I eat the way I do. And it was never about minimizing my insulin use. The fact that I could sort of take 20% of what I used to take, or that I can today, that's a great thing. And especially for the guys in the States, for where insulin is so incredibly expensive right now, it's just insane. And when it should be a right for those who need it, of course. But especially there, maybe it could be a point to consider if there is no other solution. But it's never the point of actually bringing down insulin to a minimum. It's just you still have to take what your body needs.
It gave me goosebumps when you said that, because I've seen news reports on how difficult it is to obtain insulin, and yet I don't understand it, because I've studied in a lab how insulin is made, using bacterial cells. And I've seen how it's done. And in my mind, I'm like thinking, well, this should just get cheaper and cheaper. And yet somehow it's not happening that way. And there's these people who are making insulin in their homes and selling it as this like secondary market, which has developed. So, you're 100% right. That's critically needed, in places where insulin is a life and death situation for most people who have, type 1 diabetes, if they can't get access to insulin. All of these protocols are critically important to the world, to people. So it's so great that you're putting that message out there and helping people find this information. I wonder if the fact that you use these technologies and CGM and continuous monitoring has helped you maybe make some of these connections? I think some of it probably is because you're so active in the low carb and keto community, and you're constantly educating yourself, learning, going to events, learning the latest thing, and you are paying attention to all the new information that's being put out there. I wonder if that, combined with having this continuous monitoring, you're able to see like, oh, you know, I've been doing more zero carb carnivore, more protein, more meat based, and like I'm seeing the results right away.
Definitely. When I started low carbing, or my liberal paleo, as I was talking about before, I didn't have any of this technology. I was still on like manual injections, multiple daily injections. I only had a blood sugar meter, and I had to do it like, well, everyone else really. Since then, very thankfully, diabetes tech has improved a lot and it's gotten more available to me and to other diabetics. I'm very fortunate in being able to use all this great, fantastic tech, and I know not everyone is, so that's another thing. I am very blessed, and I know it. It's not that, but yes, of course, it helps a lot to get instant feedback of what you're doing, whether you're changing a supplement, or if you're changing your protein amount, or you're changing the amount you move a day, or you're drinking more water, or you know, all of this stuff, and you get like an instant feedback loop of what is actually going on with your blood sugar. And that absolutely helps, and that can motivate. But I also know people that where it completely overwhelms them, and they just get, you know, so blindsided by all these numbers that they just sit there and go like update, 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 just to see the next one so that they can react. And that's not the way. You can't use it like that, because that's going to drive you insane.
Yep,
But as long as you use it, yeah, as long as you use it as a tool to help guide you, not dictate your life, but help guide you to improving your life at all times. And that's where you can be a little bit more creative maybe in your lifestyle choices. As long as it's healthy and you think that it's going to help you, you know, try it out if you dare to. Like, it's not, you can't wait for someone to tell you what to do. You can get inspired, but what I'm doing, what all the other fantastic people who are sharing online about diabetes or about keto, about all these things, get inspired by them and what they're doing and what they're trying next and all this stuff. But just also know that not everything is going to apply to you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm curious on your opinion, changing the subject just a little bit. I heard a podcast recently with Sophia Clemens Clemens at Paleo Medicina, which is in Hungary. And, you know, they have this paleo ketogenic protocol, which is more of a 2-to-1 traditional ketogenic diet, which is probably looks more like 80 or above % fat, quite moderated in protein and low in carb. And they say that they've been able to actually reverse and prevent type 1 if it's caught, I guess, at a certain age. It must be before there is like significant damage or, you know, loss of function to the beta cells. I'm curious what your thoughts were on that, because I had never heard that before.
Now, I know that you can prolong. I don't think full reversal is possible, if I may be so negative.
That's why I was like really surprised when I heard it.
No, but I think you can really prolong. There's something in the beginning of when you get type 1 diabetes and they find out the antibodies and that, you know, your C-peptide is very, very low and all this stuff. There is something called the honeymoon period. So this is where you're still producing a bit of insulin. It's not all killed off yet. And, you know, and I think you really can prolong that by eating the right sort of real food diet. Absolutely. That's not a problem. I know a lot of kids, for example, who managed to do that with help of their parents, clearly. But, you know, it is possible to prolong it. But I think a full reversal is not. I would be surprised if anyone can maintain it for more than a couple of years. I know one case where this woman has maintained a very calm honeymoon period. But she has been taking insulin, but she was also diagnosed later in life, so around 25, 30 or something. So then it is a slower progression of the death of the beta cells anyway. But I think you can prolong it, but I think it's not, you can't avoid having to use insulin sooner or later. And my specific question about the Paleomedicina project or their protocol is actually, I know that they claim that you have to take away all the insulin at once, but that can be life-threateningly dangerous for a type 1 to do that, because as I discussed before, you still need to give your body the insulin that it needs, unless you were like diagnosed yesterday and then come into this protocol. Then maybe that could potentially be a possibility. But I think if someone tries to do it on their own, and because it says on this website that you take away insulin completely from day one, that can be very dangerous.
Yeah, I think they are definitely doing it in a clinical setting, like with pretty serious supervision. But I'll have to send you the podcast link just to hear your thoughts.
Yes, please do.
I thought it was really interesting, and I do like their approach in terms of the emphasis on healthy fats. I really, really like that, and I also like their approach and emphasis on nose to tail, which is really one thing that I've made a huge change in the past year, is really incorporating, more of a nose to tail approach to my sort of keto carnivore. And I absolutely love it. Like, I feel like it's opened up this whole new world of like amazing, nourishing, nutrient dense food. And I cannot get over how amazing I keep feeling on it. And I really like that whenever that's emphasized, when people are encouraged to eat the whole organism, like with, eggs or caviar or fish roe, fish eggs, oysters, sardines. Anytime you're eating the whole organism, and then obviously the offal and the liver and organ meats, and it's really easy to do here in Prague. So, and when I'm in the US, it's a little bit more of a struggle, though I find my sources. But here it's like, there's things called like a zabiechka, which is this, it's like a pig slaughter that happens where the whole community gets together. It happens at one farm, and they spend the whole day together. The community and the whole sort of village get together, and they humanely slaughter the animal, and then they make sausage, all these different products that you would normally buy at the store, but they make it together, and it's a communal activity. And there's obviously, it's Czech, so there's lots of beer drinking and that kind of thing.
Obligatory,
but they use every single part of the animal in some form, in some way. Nothing goes wasted. And so I think it's something that's really lacking. Like in North America, if I go to the grocery store and try to find liver, it's in the dog food section, and that's the only place I can find it unless I do a special order. So that's one thing I really appreciate about their protocol, and they really emphasize that and the healthy fats aspect of it. So I think
definitely, and I have to say, your liver pate with bacon has changed my life.
Oh my gosh, did you make it?
Yes, of course.
Oh, I'm so glad.
It's delicious.
Yeah, I literally was like, I don't want to say this, but this is the best thing I've ever made, like in my kitchen. And like, it's surprising because it's not like some, steak with hollandaise and like all the traditional kind of thing, but it is like really delicious. And the one thing that I find kind of sad is I get a lot of messages from people who are like, I don't like the taste of it. Like, it doesn't taste good. And I'm like,
you didn't use the right spices.
I'm like, it does, but your taste buds have been so distorted from real food that it doesn't taste that good to you right now. Because I noticed that I've restored and reclaimed that. And I think people in Europe probably are more used to eating nose to tail, and like pate is something very common you have all the time. And then there are people that I talk to, in the US who've like never had pate, like in their whole life. It's just not a part of the food culture. So I'm like, just, at least put bacon in it. And for me, it was like next level. I was like, I can't go back to eating any kind of regular pate after having this.
Another relatively new find in the past couple of years for me is actually grilled bone marrow.
Oh
my God.
yeah, I've
so freaking good.
Yeah, I've tried that a couple times, and I know it's a delicacy, and it's really high in healthy fats and delicious. Yeah, I love when I see your posts when you do that, because it's cool when you have like a place that you like to go to.
Yeah, that's true.
Regularly, make it well and that kind of thing. I have some rapid fire questions for you. I'm gonna play a little bit.
Okay, I'm ready.
Game here, so get your game face on in the closet.
It's too much focus on my closet. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm really actually
okay.
just, like, passive aggressively jealous of it, because I'm podcasting out of my kitchen area, and like I am so excited to finally create a podcasting studio, and I'm going to do that in the next 12 months using
beautiful
a room. And it's I'm just envious of the fact that you have a podcasting room. I think it definitely helps sound quality to you and stuff. So it's just my envy coming out. I have closet envy. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some kind of like, first some questions that just have like quick answers, and then at the end I have just the rapid fire, which are like just the first thing that comes to your mind. So what is your favorite go-to restaurant meal?
Steak. At all times, steak and béarnaise sauce. Yes.
Steak and béarnaise. Awesome. What is your favorite meal to cook at home?
Fast food. For fast food, it's fried eggs. For more complicated, new fun recipe to try out.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier your reset meal. Is that your bacon and eggs?
It is. Yeah, either bacon and eggs or sausage and eggs.
I was going to say on that, I find it funny when, people think carnivore is so like out there, and I'm like, have you ever had bacon and eggs? Like, that's a carnivore meal. It's just carnivore, 0 carb, and bacon and eggs is such a staple for people. What are you curious about right now?
I'm curious about what will the next step be in terms of sort of the health movement. What comes next? I'm always, partially because of the events, of course, I am always on the lookout for the next sort of topic, the next thing to talk about, all that stuff. But I'm excited about, of course, Mallorca, and hear the wide variety of topics that we have covered. Everything from vegetarian, vegan, keto to autophagy to all of these fasting to everything amazing. So yeah, interested to see what the next thing is.
I know what it is.
Is it?
You want to know?
I do.
It's called it's called breatharianism. Have you heard of this?
You mean that you live on airtarianism? Oh Lord. Okay, that's interesting. I'll be following.
Yeah, be following that. So good luck with that. Next,
if I hyperventilate, will it help?
Oh, it's hysterical. What is your favorite meal to cook for your family?
I don't cook for my family.
Oh.
No, I have a fantastic, very food loving husband who cooks in our house.
That's amazing. So he cooks most of the meals for you guys?
Yes, we plan them together and then we co-cook them, sort of things, but he usually is a little bit more involved.
Are you like the sous chef or what?
I am always sous chef, yes. Yes, chef.
Prepping and
and cutting and fixing.
I bet you make a mean charcuterie platter though.
Yes, I need to step up my game on sort of decorating it and sort of getting it like really pretty. But yes, I can definitely do that.
You should make an avocado rose. I looked up on YouTube how to make it, and I felt like pretty special after I made it. It only took a minute of my time to learn, but yeah, it was.
Please enlighten me.
Yes. I'll send you a link. What is the best purchase you've ever made for keto or for your health?
I must be boring and say my continuous glucose monitoring system.
For me, it's my glucometer. Yeah. I mean, can you get a better deal? Can you get a better deal than that? Like,
well, okay, and then in a day-to-day basis is my insulin, because that keeps me alive and stuff. But apart from that, yeah,
staying alive is important. It's key.
It's kind of major, yeah.
Who is your biggest influencer that kind of inspires you? And there could be more than one. Like,
are you fishing?
I know, like, who's your favorite IG account? No.
With like over 100K followers.
Starts with K, ends with L.
And it's got blonde doing something. Anyway, no, seriously. For me, I think every single medical professional at this point of time that dares to stand up for real food eating, and especially in my own case, if I can be so ego about it, in terms of type 1 diabetes, that they stand up for, low carb is an option and we have to make it an option. For delicious food posts, it is you.
Aw, thank you. Making my pate over there every day. That's Seb sweating in the kitchen.
Yeah, you can hear him. If we're quiet, you can hear him sweat in the kitchen.
No, I'm kidding. I thank you. And I fully agree. The people that inspire me the most, aside from just ordinary people transforming their health, which I know inspires you too, it's just the people who are taking professional and personal risks to go out there and speak out when they're at risk of, like, you've had people at your conference like Dr. Gary Fedke and others who out there who pretty much almost lost everything just from telling people to eat real food, and that's so insane. But it shows that there's a lot of vested interest in the way the system is designed,
and the fact that is still a risk to tell people to eat real food. How screwed up is that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that it's changing, and I'm inspired because every doctor that comes out openly, publicly inspires so many more. And then, every patient that is empowered, like yourself, goes in and makes these changes. I went off gluten instead of having to have my colon removed. Like, sharing that back with your care provider, and then it then maybe gets them to question or open their mind or share that with someone else. So
eventually it may do that.
It's a movement though, and it takes a lot of people, but I agree with you 100%. Like, I'm really inspired by those people. Okay, so fast talk. I have to pick one or the other. Salad or steak?
Duh. Steak.
Fasting or no fasting?
Eating when you're hungry.
Yeah.
So fasting, yes. Yeah.
Testing or no testing?
The testing. A lot of testing. More testing than you think that you need testing. Yeah.
Supplements or no supplements?
I think supplements can have their place, yes.
Advocate or silent follower?
Wrong person to ask. Advocate.
Just speak up a little more, Hannah. Seriously. Grass-fed or grain-fed? And I'm asking this in particular with particular interest because you're European.
Grass-fed. It's just, for me, it's a completely different flavor in the meat and in the products when it is grass-fed. And pretty soon after you recognize that taste, you can definitely start tasting when it's grain-fed.
Yeah, I just find it really interesting here because they advertise corn and grain-fed like they do grass-fed in North America. Like, it's because it's fattier, it's like more appetizing for people. And I'm like, it's just...
Especially in chicken. Like
Yeah.
here, it's a huge thing that
Yes.
it says on every restaurant menu that has them. It's like, corn-fed chicken. I'm like, ew. Let them eat worms. Like, let them eat worms.
Natural diet, please.
Yes.
Rare, medium rare, or well done?
Medium rare.
What is fried, baked, steamed, or grilled?
Depends on grilled.
Possibility of eating high carb again in the future, possible or never?
No, I don't want that.
Keto for life or for a few more years?
For life.
Yeah, nice job on the rapid fire. What is your must-have kitchen essential?
A really good playlist. No, but a really good knife actually is the key, as my sous chef sort of responsibilities are happening.
They're underrated. I've been getting all these new things because I'm eating more and more meat, like proper steak knives. I was like,
yes,
we need to have actual steak knives. So you go out to a nice steak restaurant and you slice the meat and it's just like butter. And then we're here at home, like sawing this thing for 10 minutes.
Breaking out the chainsaw, going.
Yeah, like it makes a world of difference. But I've also been, obviously I cook a little more than you do, and do recipes and things, but I've been having so much fun with getting different appliances. I have a meat slicer, a grinder, a air fryer, which I had bought last year, but that is a total game changer, especially when it comes to poultry, which is kind of a tricky thing to do. You don't want to dry it out. You don't want it to be undercooked. Air fryer, amazing. And the last thing that I got is a smoker. And that baby is sitting in the front of the house in its box. And I am like just trembling with excitement.
Do you want to hear brisket?
Yeah, when you come, I definitely going to be making that, but I want to smoke everything. Like, there's a whole world of I've been learning, because you can smoke like poultry, chicken, turkey, fish has like its own kind of category of different flavorings, and like you want to use oak chips with that, and then with the brisket, it's kind of anything, but like there's just a whole world of smoking that I'm learning about, and I'm really, really excited. And the cool thing is, like, it's just, I really love eating brisket, and I don't know, actually I can imagine what it's like in Zurich, but here there is a huge premium to buy it. So you can, it's the same like at Terry Black's or those kinds of places, like, it's super delicious, but it's not cheap.
No.
So I was like, I could invest a little bit in this smoker and I won't have to depend on getting it, at different places. So I'm really excited to try it out. But I also think it's just going to be fun to experiment with like all the different wood flavors and, all kinds of different techniques and smoke my own salmon and stuff.
Does that mean that we have to make a study trip to Texas?
Yes, we need to get like some kind of private class. Actually, there is Terry Black's has an online course you can take.
Are you kidding me?
No, Pete's BFF from high school, Tate, who lives in Dallas. He took us to our first ever like barbecue smokehouse place, which is called Hard 8, and he has a smoker in his backyard. And so he's been sending me charts, and he sent me it's Franklin, not
Franklin.
Terry Black's, but Terry Black's might have some kind of course. But you can do the Franklin's course, and you can learn all about it. But it's really like in kind of an art almost, like how much people get into this stuff. So yeah, it's very exciting. I cannot wait. Imagine you're gonna come here and I'm gonna serve you like ketogenic girl in-house smoked brisket, and
it's gonna be a dream come true. I can't wait.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so
Highest up
much.
on my bucket list right now.
Yes, it is top, but we're going to get to do that a little bit and preview a little bit in Mallorca
Yes.
in a few weeks. And I literally, like, you've seen I have a countdown. Um,
I saw it.
and like people are signing up for it. Like I didn't know you could do that. If you
That's beautiful. I suggest to those people who have signed up for Vanessa's beautiful countdown to the low carb universe, if you want to be in it, you sort of got to get your ticket too, though. So
some of them might be counting down to my posts about it. I don't
that
know.
could be, yeah.
You know,
But you don't want to miss it live, so join
if
us.
they live too far away, they might be counting down to, some of the sharing that we'll be doing because I'll definitely be posting about it. But I agree, there's nothing like being there in person, and it is such a phenomenal event that you guys put on. So I really, really can't wait. It's coming soon, and like I said, I'm like already in my tropical wardrobe. I'm
I'm prepped.
already there, getting my presentation ready on autophagy, which is really cool, and it's a subject that I mentioned in a lot of presentations, so I'm excited to do just like a full one on the biochemistry of what happens, because I think there's a lot of myths out there about autophagy, and like it's this mythical beast that only happens like after 36 hours of fasting, and like really it's happening all the time in the body. So it's going to be cool to talk about that and present on it. So thanks for the opportunity.
I can't wait to learn more about it. I can't wait to see you very soon.
Me too. So hopefully you guys will join us in Mallorca very soon, and you can get tickets. Check out the Low Carb Universe. And what can people expect from you in the near term, Hanna? What can people look out for you?
Ooh, very exciting question. I wish I knew myself.
Breatharianism.
Breatharianism, airtarianism, and a mix thereof, I think.
Sounds like really boring content. Like, I don't know.
It's just going to be me hyperventilating in a couple of posts. Like, that's it.
We're back. Like,
oh no.
Look at my delicious breath that I took this morning.
It was so fulfilling.
It was like I'm satisfied for days. Like, I don't know.
Fasting, schmasting.
No, breathing is cool. Actually, I do remember there was one of your events, there was a breathing expert there.
Yes.
And I think she did my favorite talk, and she got us all to breathe together and close our eyes, and it was kind of a form of meditation, but showing like different kinds of breathing and stuff, and that was really cool.
No, breathing is incredibly important. I'm not saying that. It's just maybe you need something else to sustain yourself. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong,
partial to eating.
Prove me wrong.
I mean, it's very clear how much I enjoy food and eating. But I'm excited for, seeing what comes next too. I think it's always interesting to see what inspires people or compels people and excites, a lot of exchange and dialogue. And even if it's controversial or may seem crazy at first, like what are the things, that people are trying out, testing out. So I'm excited for that too. But I know you're working on some projects.
I am working on some projects at all times. But yeah, so if you want to be the first one to know, then definitely follow me on social media. For sure.
And that's
Hanna Diabetes Expert.
Which,
yeah. Pretty much everywhere, I think. Yes.
That makes it easy for everyone. Well, thank you so much for being here again today, Hanna. And thank you for sharing so much of your wisdom and expertise, and for all your contributions that you do to the space, and for inspiring so many people to show them, to rethink what they might be able to do with their health and not just accept what they're being told.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for your kind words. They mean the world to me.